Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. We'll continue with 46, chapter 46 from the Devi Bhagavatm, retold by Ramesh Menon. The frail old Brahmana, who was Vishvamitra himself, said to Harishchandra, "This is a very sacred tirtha, O Ksatra. Anyone who bathes in it is cleansed of all sins, and virtue springs up in him. I suggest you bathe here and offer tarpanam to your fathers on high, and give generous charity to the poor and deserving. For Swayambhu Manu has said, he who comes to a punya tirtha and does not perform ablutions and offer charities is a man who deceives himself, a slayer of his own soul. So bathe, O Harishchandra, of the house of the sun, and then I shall show you the way home to Ayodhya." Poor lost Harishchandra did what he was told. He set aside his armor and his clothes, tied his horse to a tree, and entered the river to bathe. He offered tarpanam to his fathers in heaven. When he came out, he said to the old mendicant, "My lord, now ask me for whatever charity you want, and it shall be yours. Land, horses, cows, gold and jewels, chariots and elephants, anything you want shall be yours." The Brahmana said, "I have heard that there is no other man in all the world as generous as you, Harishchandra. My daughter has come of age, and I want to have her married. I beg you, give me enough wealth to perform the ceremonies. Decide on a date, Brahmana, and be sure that you shall have more than you asked for from me. The bride and her groom wait a short way away from here, my lord, for I set out with them in search of a kindly person." When he dissolved the Maya that created his demon boar, Vishvamitra had made a handsome Brahmana youth and a comely young Brahmanic girl, also with his Maya. Now he brought them to Harishchandra and said, "These are my daughter and the boy she shall marry. Today is an auspicious day, my lord, and I mean to marry them straight away. But do I have your word you will give the young man the wealth that I asked for as my daughter's dowry? Also, king, you performed the Rajasu Yagya, and you must give me 2.5 loads of gold as dakshina for myself. You have my sacred word on it, Brahmana, and may a curse fall on me if I don't give you whatever wealth you asked for, and the 2.5 loads of gold in addition. But first you must show me the way back to Ayodhya." Vishvamitra, the emaciated Brahmana, did so. Harishchandra went home in relief, but bright and early the next morning, even as he sat at his first puja of the day, the old Brahmana appeared in Harishchandra's Agnishala, where the sacred fire burned. He came with his daughter and her young suitor, both the Muni's own creatures of illusion, though the king was not to know this. The king rose with a smile to welcome them. He embraced the Brahmana who had shown him his way home. The Brahmana said, "My lord, I have married my child and the young man. I have come for the dowry you promised. Tell me what you want, and you shall have more than you have asked for," said Harishchandra. Quietly, that Brahmana said, "Give my son-in-law your kingdom as his dowry, and your treasury, your granary, your army, your horses, indeed everything you own. And for dakshina, give me 2.5 loads of gold." Suddenly, the Brahmana stood transformed before him, and Harishchandra saw Vishvamitra had tricked him. Numbly he said, "All that was mine is yours, Muni." He called his wife and his son Rahita and told them what had happened. He said to Vishvamitra, "Apart from our 3 lives, everything in Ayodhya is now yours." But Vishvamitra said, "What about the gold you promised me as dakshina, O king? I have given you everything I own. Now, where shall I go for gold?" "You are a liar and a cheat, Harishchandra. You have broken your word to me," hissed the Muni. Harishchandra said, "You shall have your gold. Be sure of it. I will not eat until I have given you the 2.5 loads of gold, but you must wait a month, and I will pay you what I owe." The rishi laughed. "You have no kingdom, no treasury, no army left. How will you get the gold? I think it best you acknowledge that you cannot keep the oath you swore to me, and I will go away." Brahmana, be patient for a month, and you will have the gold you want. I will have my wife, my son, and myself. We three are healthy enough, and I will sell us to get you the gold I have promised you as dakshina. I beg you, inquire yourself if there is anyone who can buy us, and we shall be their slaves in return for the 2.5 loads. I will return in a month, Muni. Harishchandra took himself and his family to Varanasi, where the Lord Shankara dwells in spirit with Uma. Just seeing Kashi filled the king with soft ecstasy. He went down to the Ganga, bathed in her, and offered tarpanam to the devas and the pitris, and worshipped his own Ishta Devata. He then thought, no king rules Kashi, but only Shiva. And Kashi was not part of the kingdom he had given away to Vishvamitra. So Harishchandra, his wife, and his son Rohita began living in Varanasi in prayer to the Lord. But when a month passed, Vishvamitra appeared there and said, where is my gold you promised? A month has passed, and you haven't given me my dakshina. Harishchandra said, half a day remains of the month. Wait just a half a day, and you shall have your gold. So be it, but if you don't keep your word, when I return, I will curse you. Harishchandra thought feverishly, I am a kshatriya, and I may not beg for money. Moreover, who will give me such amount of gold? But if I die without keeping my word, I will be born as a worm or worse in my next life, for I shall be damned with the sin of stealing a Brahmana's property. He saw his wife Saivya weeping beside him. She sobbed, my lord, you must keep your word to the Muni somehow. For if a man breaks his oath, all his punya, all his tapasyas come to naught, and he is dragged down into hell. Why, Yayati performed the Rajasu and the Ashmedam and found Swarga for himself, but he spoke just one lie and was cast down from the heavens. Harishchandra cried impatiently, say what you have to say plainly. Don't speak in riddles, my wife. Saivya blurted, I have given you a son, and my nature is fulfilled. So sell me, my lord, and give the gold you get for me as dakshina to the Muni. But Harishchandra fainted just to hear this. When he awoke, he sobbed, how can you say such a thing to me? Have you forgotten all the sweet times we spent together? Don't even think of it. And he swooned again. When Saiva saw him thus, she wailed, Harishchandra, lord of the earth, look at us now. You were master of a great kingdom. You slept in a palace as big as a city and gave away as charity what other kings kindly hardly own. Oh, look at you now. And she fell over him unconscious. Then their small son, Rohita, began to cry, mother, father, feed me, I'm hungry. Just then Vishvamitra appeared there again and sprinkled some water on the king's face. The rishi cried, wake up, Harishchandra, and pay your debt to me. A man who owes money suffers great torments. That increases day by day. The water was cold as snow, and Harishchandra awoke spluttering. But when he saw Vishvamitra before him, he promptly fainted again. The rishi dashed more cold water into the king's face, and at last Harishchandra awakened with a groan. Vishvamitra said, it is the truth that makes the sun shine and moves the earth in her place in the sky. Heaven is founded on the truth, and the greatest dharma as well. If you weigh the punya of 1,000 Ashmedas yagas against a single truth, spoken or done, the punya of the truth would outweigh the yagya by far. Do you know what I am saying, O king? If you don't give me my dakshina by sunset, I shall curse you. There is not much time left, Harishchandra. I will return at sunset. With that, Vishvamitra left. Harishchandra was alarmed at the thought that the rishi would curse him if he did not get his dakshina. But he was even more tormented to think that if he did not somehow give the Muni his gold by twilight, he would break his sacred word and violate the truth. At this time, they saw a Brahmana passing by who seemed like a man of some wealth. Saiva said to her husband, my lord, a Brahmana is meant to be like a father to the others 3 varnas. A son can certainly ask his father for help in time of need. Why not beg some gold from this Brahmana? There is no sin in it. But Harishchandra said, a Brahmana may beg, but it is forbidden for us Kshatriyas. I am a king. I cannot take alms from anyone, let alone from a Brahmana. His wife said, my lord, fate keeps some men in wealth, but others throws on hard times. Fate alone makes kings and beggars at different times of the same man. It is fate that tests you, my husband, through the angry Muni who is meant to be a tapasvan and a master of his rage. You must bow to fate now. There is no sin in your begging for alms to pay the Rishi's dakshina. But Harishchandra said, I would rather cleave my tongue with a sword than beg from him. I'm a Kshatriya. I live by the strength of my arms. His wife said quietly, my lord, there is only one way by which you can pay the Muni's dakshina. You must sell me. It is a noble cause of keeping your sacred word, and no sin will come from it. With a desperate sigh, his chest heaving, Harishchandra said, come then, and let me do the thing that not the basest man would stoop to. He took her to the city's main thoroughfare, where all the shops were standing upon the pavement, and began to cry in a loud voice, this woman is for sale. Does anyone need a maidservant? This lovely woman is for sale. She is my wife, and I mean to sell her for 2.5 loads of gold. Some Brahmanas crowded around him and asked, who are you, fellow? His eyes full of tears, Harishchandra replied, I am a Rakshasa, friends, whom no one will call a man from today, but speak to me only if you have the price to pay for my wife. Vishvamitra saw all this from a distance, and assuming the guise of an old Brahmana, came up to Harishchandra and said, I will pay half the price you want. Here it is. Now give me the woman. Harishchandra saw the man was a crude old fellow, but he was so relieved to have the gold he handed his wife over at once. The old Brahmana seized her roughly by her hair and began to drag her away when she cried, oh, look at me at my son's face a last time. Let me see my son's face a last time. Sobbing, she said to her child, Rohita, look, your mother is a slave now, and you mustn't touch her anymore. I'm going now, child, and I may never see you again. Look after your father for me. Harishchandra was so stricken he stood as if he had turned to stone. But Rohita cried out for his mother and ran after her as the Brahmana hauled her away. Often the child tripped and fell into the dust of the road, but he would pick himself up and run after his mother again. Finally, he seized her garment in his small hand and would not leave it. He ran along with his mother. The old Brahmana grew annoyed and began to slap the child. Sadhya screamed, have mercy, Brahmana, buy my son as well. He cannot live without me. If I don't see my son's face, I won't be able to work for you. The old man went to Harishchandra and said, here is some more gold. Give me the child too. Numbly, Harishchandra took the gold coins, but now Saiba fell at his feet and sobbed, if I have been a chaste wife, may you be my husband again. But Harishchandra could hardly speak for the thought of being separated from his son. He stood like a man who had been struck by lightning. He said to the Brahmana, how will I live without my son? Why I did not feel 1,000th part of the pain I am feeling now when I lost my kingdom. He turned to Saiba and wept, ah, my love, you were given to me by your father to be the queen of Ayodhya, and so you were, but now I have sold you into slavery. What fate could be crueler than this? But the old Brahmana growled and began to drag the woman and the boy away, slapping them now and again, or kicking them. They must learn how to be treated as his slaves. Harishchandra stood sobbing piteously, hardly able to believe the fate that had overtaken him, the king of the house of the sun. When the old Brahmana had vanished with his wife and his child, and Harishchandra stood desolate, suddenly Vishvamitra appeared before him with his disciples in tow. Harshly the Muni said, the sun is sinking. Pay me the dakshina you owe, or declare yourself a liar and a cheat. Numbly, Harishchandra handed him the gold he had and said, "Here's your Dakshina Muni, as I promised." Vishwamitra said, "Where did you come by this gold?" The king replied with a deep sigh, "Don't ask me that. I will not take tainted gold. Tell me, how did you get this money?" "I sold my wife and my son for this gold. Take it, Muni." "This is only half what you owe me. Just a few hours remain of the day. Pay me what you promised, or declare yourself a liar and a cheat." "My lord, I have sold my family to get you this gold. Wait till sunset, and you shall have the rest of all as well." The rishi growled, "Very well, till sunset then. But after that, be sure I will curse you if you haven't paid my dakshina in full." He stalked away with his disciples and was lost in the crowd of the marketplace of Kashi. Muni Vedavyasa told King Janamejaya. We'll go on with chapter 47 next time. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshvari Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai.